That's not what I came on to speak about this morning. And the specific
hang on,
issue,
listen, you're a shadow cabinet minister. You don't just come on to talk about one thing.
Well, that is the purpose of elections. And at the last election, this government achieved a sizable majority for our missions, including to grow the economy, to improve living standards.
This happens to be a big issue that's blown up this week. World Rugby have announced it. It's causing a huge amount of debate.
Rachel Reeves thought she was ready for Piers Morgan. She wasn't. In a shocking turn of events, the Labour shadow chancellor crumbled under pressure, exposing the party's economic plans as little more than empty promises. Watch as Morgan peels back the layers of Labour's manifesto, revealing inconsistencies that left Reeves speechless. This isn't just another political interview, it's a masterclass in holding politicians accountable. As the interview began, Rachel Reeves exuded confidence, painting a rosy picture of Labour's economic vision. She spoke of grand plans and ambitious targets, her words flowing smoothly as Piers Morgan listened with an attentive, almost cordial demeanour.
And make working people better off. We've just got started, and that is what we are absolutely determined to do, to deliver on the mandate that we got on the 4th of July.
If you come on this programme as a shadow cabinet minister or a cabinet minister, you should expect to be asked about anything that's been in the news that has serious consequences for cross-sections of the community, shouldn't you?
This initial restraint from Morgan, known for his sharp questioning, seemed to lull Reeves into a false sense of security. But the calm wouldn't last. As Reeves continued to outline Labour's economic strategy, Morgan's expression shifted, his eyes narrowed, and a slight smile played at the corners of his mouth. It was the look of a predator about to pounce. "Let's talk about your tax policies," Morgan interjected, his tone deceptively casual. "You've promised no new tax rises, yet you've just announced a $40 billion increase in taxes. How do you square that circle?" Reeves' composure wavered for a moment. She attempted to reconcile these conflicting statements, her words becoming less assured. "Well, you see, our focus is on sustainable economic growth." Morgan wasn't having it. He pressed further, bringing up Labour's pledge not to raise national insurance. "But isn't that exactly what you're proposing with the increase in employer national insurance?" As Reeves struggled to provide a coherent response, it became clear that Labour's fiscal positions were far from consistent. The shadow chancellor found herself trapped in a web of contradictions, unable to explain how raising taxes on employers wouldn't negatively impact hiring and wage growth. The interview took on a rhythm of its own. Morgan would pose a straightforward economic question, and Reeves would fumble for an answer. Each stumble chipped away at her earlier confidence, exposing gaps in Labour's economic planning. "What's the current rate of inflation?" Morgan asked at one point. Reeves hesitated, her earlier poise now a distant memory. The silence stretched uncomfortably as she searched for an answer that wouldn't come. As the questioning continued, Reeves's composure visibly cracked. Her responses became shorter, less assured. The facade of economic competence that Labour had carefully constructed was crumbling before viewers' eyes. In a moment that would be replayed and analysed for days to come, Reeves found herself unable to answer even basic economic questions. The implications were clear. How could Labour be trusted to manage the nation's finances if their shadow chancellor couldn't handle fundamental economic inquiries? As the segment drew to a close, it was evident that the interview had taken an unexpected turn. What began as a platform for Labour to showcase their economic vision had transformed into a revealing exposé of their unpreparedness. The question now wasn't just about Labour's policies, but about their very ability to govern. The economic stumbles were just the beginning. As Morgan shifted gears to Labour's ambitious housing plan, a new chapter of scrutiny unfolded. How could a party struggling with basic economic facts hope to build 1.5 million homes? The answer would prove more elusive than anyone imagined. Rachel Reeves, still reeling from her earlier missteps, attempted to regain her footing by touting Labour's flagship housing policy. "We're committed to building 1.5 million new homes," she declared, her voice steadier than before. But Piers Morgan wasn't about to let this grand promise go unchallenged. "That's a nice round number," Morgan replied, his tone dripping with skepticism. "But let's break this down. How exactly do you plan to fund and execute such an ambitious project?" Reeves' confident facade began to crack once again as she struggled to provide concrete details. The disconnect between Labour's lofty promises and their implementation plans became glaringly apparent. Morgan pressed on, questioning the logistics, timeline, and most importantly, the funding for this massive undertaking. Reeves's responses grew increasingly vague, peppered with political jargon that failed to address the core issues. As the interview progressed, it became clear that Labour's housing strategy was built on shaky foundations. Morgan pointed out that only about half of the proposed 1.5 million homes would actually be available for purchase, with many designated for social housing. This revelation complicated Labour's narrative about who would truly benefit from their housing plan. The public's growing concern about housing availability and affordability made Reeves's lack of clarity particularly problematic. Morgan, sensing blood in the water, pressed further. "Who exactly will occupy these new homes?" he asked, linking the question to the ongoing immigration debate. Reeves fumbled for an answer, her earlier confidence now a distant memory. As the interview reached its critical point, the grand vision of 1.5 million new homes began to unravel under Morgan's relentless scrutiny. Reeves couldn't provide satisfactory answers about what would happen if funding ran out or construction stalled. The Shadow Chancellor's struggle to articulate a coherent plan exposed Labour's housing strategy as more about making grand promises than providing viable solutions. In the end, Reeves's performance left viewers questioning not just Labour's ability to deliver on their housing pledge, but their capacity to manage any real challenges facing the nation. The interview had laid bare the hollowness of Labour's grandest promises, leaving Rachel Reeves and her party's credibility in tatters. As the dust settles on this explosive interview, the repercussions for Labour are hard to ignore. Rachel Reeves's inability to answer basic economic questions and provide clear details on Labour's grand housing plans has left the party's credibility in tatters. This isn't just about one politician's bad day. It's a stark revelation of Labour's unpreparedness to lead the country. The broader implications for Labour's electoral prospects are significant. How can voters trust a party that can't explain its own policies? Reeves's fumbling performance raises serious doubts about Labour's ability to manage the nation's finances and deliver on their promises. It's a stark reminder that political rhetoric must be backed by substance. This interview serves as a wake-up call for both politicians and voters. It underscores the critical importance of substantive policy discussions in politics. Empty promises and vague platitudes won't cut it when faced with real scrutiny. As we move forward, we must demand more from our political leaders: clear plans, honest answers, and the ability to stand up to tough questioning. Only then can we hope for a truly informed and engaged democracy.